So in this video, I'm going to go over fitness myths about calisthenics that you guys should ignore so you can maximize your results when using calisthenics for your training. Let's get straight into the video. Fitness myth number 1. You can't use calisthenics for strength training. So when it comes to calisthenics, most people seem to think that is high rep training. They use it to tone the muscle, or you would use it if you were doing circuit training. Maybe if you're trying to lose weight, or maybe work on your endurance. But calisthenics is effective for strength training too. If you want to work your strength, you need to test it, and that's how we improve it. And to do that, you have to pick exercises that allow you to work to a high intensity or a high percentage of your 1 rep max. And basically to do that, you would typically work between 1 and 5 reps. Some people might even go 1 to 8 reps. A very, very common sort of rep range is sort of between 5 and 8 reps. So all you need to do is find an exercise that allows you to work within this rep range, with maybe a rep or 2 in a tank, or in some cases, some people might want to train to failure. Find an exercise or a variation that allows you to do that. Sure, if you're doing weightlifting or sort of free weights or machines, there's more variations, there's more movements you can do. With calisthenics, it might be a little bit more limited, or depending on what equipment you have, that might be a little bit harder. But as long as you find a variation that allows you to work within that rep range, you're able to test and therefore improve your strength. So if you guys are looking to really focus on strength training, calisthenics is more than possible to do that. For some people, it might be an inverted row. Some people might find a pull-up is going to allow you to work in that rep range. Some people can do more than 10, 15 pull-ups. So maybe they move into weighted pull-ups. Find a variation that allows you to work in that rep range, and it will allow you to improve your strength and use calisthenics for that. So fitness myth number 2, and this is probably gonna annoy some people, and I can imagine in the comment section, people are gonna argue about this because it's usually one of the biggest pros to calisthenics, and that is it's equipment free. And I keep seeing posts on Facebook, on Reddit, where people are going like, I haven't got any equipment, what exercises can I do this? Is there any equipment-free variations of doing the pull-up and all this different stuff? And sure, as long as you've got some space, you can do stuff like push-ups, you can do sit-ups, you can do planks, you can do lunges, you can do squats. Great. But as you can imagine, where are all the back exercises? And where are the progressions that you could possibly lead to? Maybe if you've got a wall, you can do some handstand push-ups. But guys, one of the best exercises you can do, hands down, and one of the best calisthenics exercises you can do is gonna be the pull-up. If you don't have any equipment, you're not gonna be able to do any pull-ups. And if you can't do pull-ups, maybe you need to do inverted rows, you need equipment for that as well. What about dips? I know some people say put 2 chairs together or use a countertop in a kitchen or something like that to be able to do dips. But guys, if you really want to focus on calisthenics and it's something you are determined to go down that route, and it isn't something you're picking because literally you have no money, maybe you're really, really young, you don't have an income, or maybe you live in an environment where you haven't got money spare to be able to do that, and that I can understand. But for a lot of places like that, there are places like parks. And at the end of the day, it's still equipment that you may not be buying or having to utilize in that regard, but you can still go out and use. Kids' parks are fantastic for this because again, a lot of them have got like monkey bars or bars. Some of them have got parallel bars to be able to do your dips. You can get underneath to be able to do your inverted rows. So I know a lot of people think a pro to calisthenics is equipment free. However, if you go in there with that mentality, you're gonna miss out on what makes calisthenics special and some of the best movements you can do out there, especially when it comes to sort of more advanced ones or even basically any of your back training. So don't think of calisthenics as equipment free. Utilize what equipment is needed to be able to utilize what makes a calisthenics special, and it will allow you to push further with your training. There are going to be some people that are very dogmatic about calisthenics, and that sort of comment's going to really steer them the wrong way. Do not listen to them. Basically, what you need is somewhere to do pull-ups and even something like a set of gymnastic rings so you can do all your other movements. That will allow you to have all the exercise you need and virtually hit the entirety of your body. So that's fitness myth number 2. Comment down below, let me know what you think. Fitness myth number 3. With calisthenics, you have to train to failure. And this is something that's very, very common when I look on Facebook, on Reddit. There'll be people asking sort of for tips, advice, workout ideas when it comes to their calisthenics. And every single time in the comment section, someone is always saying, you have to train to failure. You have to train to failure. If you don't, you're not going to progress. And what people forget is that calisthenics is like any other form of training. Okay, it doesn't matter whether you're doing calisthenics, whether you're doing weights, whether you're doing free weights. All it is about is getting tension in the muscle and triggering a muscular response. And if you're training from basically anything from 1 to 12 to 15 reps, you don't actually have to train to failure to stimulate muscle growth. And more studies are coming out now that you can basically train close to failure, maybe leave a rep or 2 in the tank. That's all you need to do. You don't have to burn yourself out every single time. And there actually are some negatives when it comes to training to failure. For one, your subsequent sweats are going to drop. So your overall volume will drop down. If you go to failure on your first set, the subsequent sets of sets afterwards are going to diminish how many you can do. Where if you leave a couple in the tank, you're able to maintain that level of volume so you get more work done. If you're trying to get better within movements, let's say you're trying to get better with a pull-up and you're trying to get the volume and the work in, if you train in a fatigue state, it's going to be harder for you to maintain and improve your technique and your form. So again, leaving a rep onto a tank is going to really, really help. The other thing is as well, is especially if you're training frequently, it's basically going to allow you to train more often if you don't go to failure. Because if you go to failure, you're going to burn out. You're more likely to have injuries. You're more likely to burn yourself out. You're more likely to hit a plateau. So remember, you don't have to train to failure to trigger muscular growth. In case one situation, if you're someone that's doing 20, 30, 40 rep sets, then yes, you're going to have to train to failure. Because if you're able to do that many reps, what that is saying, an indicator of that is that the exercise or variation you're doing isn't very hard. Obviously, because otherwise you wouldn't be able to do that many. And because you could do that many, the intensity of the exercise is low, you have to go to failure to really fatigue those motor units, those fast twitch muscle fibers to really stimulate the growth. And it's the fast twitch muscle fibers that have the most capacity for growth. Those are mainly used when you're lifting something heavy or that has a high intensity. But because of the motor units, when we take the failure, the small ones are used first until you get to the big ones. To get to that point, we have to go to failure. So again, if you're doing that sort of high rep training, yes, training to failure is needed. But if you're working between 1 and 12, 1 and 15 reps, it isn't actually necessary. Going close to failure is more enough. However, a few times when training to failure is quite good, is that every now and again, it's quite good to really push ourselves. It's really good to sort of see how far we can go. And in many cases, for most people, they may not know what going close to their failure means. There'll be some people out there that don't even know what training to failure really feels like. So sometimes actually there is some benefits to actually really, really pushing yourself so you can actually see what your actual capacity is. And once you get a rep idea in your head or what it actually feels like when you're getting close to failure, that gives you an indicator of what to train for. So guys, I hope that helps when it comes to training failure for calisthenics. Fitness myth number 4, calisthenics is completely different than weightlifting. This is very, very common from people that are coming from a weightlifting background and trying to get into calisthenics, whether they've left the gym or they just want something new. They kind of think, oh my God, this thing is completely different. Calisthenics is a different way of training. But calisthenics and weightlifting, your muscles don't know what's going on. All they know is there's tension placed on the muscle. All they know is that there is a load, there's a stress placed upon the body. They don't know whether you're doing a pull-up or a lat pull-down. All it knows is tension. It's our minds or our way or our biases that allow us to think of them in a different way. So when it comes to calisthenics, to weightlifting, as long as we are progressive, as long as we're working within the right rep range or intensity range for our particular goal, whether you're focused on strength or whether you're focused on hypertrophy, as long as we're doing that, we're working in those right ranges, as long as we've got intensity, as long as we are consistent, as long as we've got a good amount of volume and we're progressive with that, we're going to be able to progress, get bigger and stronger with calisthenics exactly the same way as we are when we're looking at weightlifting. The only times where there'll be a slight deviation is obviously with weightlifting. It's very easy to create that progressive load, and it's normally one way of doing it, which is either increasing volume through sets or reps or just adding more weight. With calisthenics, we have adding reps and sets. However, how do we progress something like the pull-up, or how do we progress something like the dip or the squat? There will be different ways in which we do that, which is slightly different, but this is why I'm a big advocate for stuff like weighted calisthenics, because then we get to combine and basically utilize a time-proven way of getting bigger and stronger and creating progressive overload that we use for weightlifting or machines, and that is just periodically increasing the resistance. So if you're doing your normal movements and you find you're getting to maybe 10, 12 reps of the pull-up and you find it's too easy now, just add some weight. And it makes things very, very simple. You don't have to go that route if you want to go onto the one-arm sort of training or anything like that. Using leverages, that's one way, but that's why I think weighted calisthenics is easy. But in its core, calisthenics and weightlifting are no different. So don't let it confuse you. Fitness myth number 5. Calisthenics is all about skills, and you should be focused on learning the skills. So I know a big draw to people when it comes to calisthenics is the skills. They'll see people doing the bars, the muscle ups, the human flags, the front levers, the back levers, the handstands, the freestanding handstands. And a lot of people get drawn into that. And a lot of people then think that that's something that is a big focus when it comes to calisthenics. Or if you're going to get into calisthenics, that's something you should focus on. However, For someone who is sort of in this position, I'm not remotely interested in the skills. The only one that slightly interests me is the muscle up. And mainly for the reason of, I think it's something that could easily be used as a functional movement. Plus it combines two of my favorite exercises, the pull up and the dip. So training towards that is gonna have some carryover to those main movements, where something like a front lever to a human flag to a freestanding handstand don't have any appeal to me because they have no real carryover. The time that is needed to dedicate to sort of learning them, but also maintaining them, is the ROI, it just isn't there for me. But there are going to be some people out there that kind of feel pressure if they get into calisthenics that is a route that they have to go down. But what I'm telling you guys is that calisthenics is a fantastic way if you want to use it purely for strength training, if you want to use it for hypertrophy, if you want to use it for just being healthier, being fitter, having some form of passion, allowing you to work out at home or anywhere if you don't want to work out in a gym or have to use all that equipment. Maybe you're tired of having that toll taken on your body with all the weightlifting. Calisthenics is a fantastic tool, and don't feel that you have to go or feel be channeled towards learning a skill. You don't have to. You can if you want, but don't put a pressure on yourself. There's more to calisthenics than learning the human flag, to learning the handstand. There are more things that make calisthenics special than just those skills. And don't feel like that's something you have to dedicate time into. If you want to experiment and have fun with it, sure, go ahead. There's no pressure. That's the great thing about calisthenics. Do whatever you want with it, but don't feel that that's what calisthenics is about, because in my opinion, it's not. It's just a fantastic way of working out, fantastic way to get bigger, stronger, and healthier, and using your body weight. That's what makes calisthenics special, and that is what drew me towards it. And you can use it for whatever endeavor you want to use it for. So guys, let me know what you think down below about any of these myths. Let me know what you think about any of them. Have you sort of struggled with some of them yourselves? What do you think, especially about the equipment one? Comment down below, I want to know what you guys think. Like the video if you found it useful. Make sure you subscribe if you want more videos like this, and I'll see you guys in the next one.